Welcome back, fellas.
Hello, mystery
Shut
guest.
up, Kevin. Welcome back, fellas.
James
that
has
was
been in a
rude.
singing mood when he intros
That's true.
the episodes that he's on. The episodes that he's
Always.
not on, he doesn't sing.
That was so fucking
Yeah.
passive aggressive. He's in a singing mood when he
I can't believe
shows
James
up.
missed an episode.
And I'm like, listen, okay, I'm trying to finish grad school here, and your boy doesn't have a ton of free time, but we're here this episode, and we're excited because we got to take a look at the movie All the Old Knives. It's an Amazon exclusive about two CIA agents and ex-lovers, Chris Pine and I literally looked up how to say this. No!
I knew that you were going to struggle with this one. There's a lot of tough names in this one.
Is it? I know it's a
Girl
hard
from-
T. It's Todd.
I don't know how to say her name. I only know her from Westworld.
I'm literally gonna just look it up again. Two CIA agents and ex-lovers, Chris Pine, and I cannot believe myself. I literally cannot believe myself.
You just spent so much time
And Tandiwe Newton.
looking up Tandiwe Newton's name, and then you said Chris Pine.
Shut up, Kevin. Chris Pine and Tandiwe Newton are brought back together after years, after a failed rescue attempt, and forced to blur the lines between profession and passion in this deep, riveting tale of global espionage, moral dilemma, and deadly betrayal. Stop laughing at me, Kevin. Chris Pine. Oh my Lanta.
I couldn't have written a funnier joke. That's so funny.
All right. Well, this movie has a star-studded cast of Chris Pine, Tandiwe Newton, Lawrence Fishburne, Jonathan Pierce, and many others. It's a kind of, I would say, like crime espionage thriller movie. Overall,
Take the
I think it's a little
It's got a
suspenseful.
thriller aspect
Got
to
some,
it, yeah.
There's some thrill, brother. There's some thrill. It's
We'll
about
get
an
to
hour 41 runtime, so not super long. But I think we're gonna roll right into first reactions. But actually, before we do, I want to encourage everyone that's listening to subscribe to us on YouTube. We're trying to grow our base on there. We really appreciate it. In addition, we got Flix Fellas merch, fam. If you go to our Patreon and you subscribe to the highest tier, there's an incremental benefit. There's more details on our website and on our Patreon, but you can get a cup, you can get sticker, you can get T-shirt, you can get long sleeve T-shirt. It's hype. Go check it out. It's really, really awesome. But yeah, go check it out on Patreon. Flixfellas at Patreon. But for first reactions, let's start with our boy Joseph. Joseph.
Hello. How are you all? I really liked this one. I thought it was intriguing and interesting, good story. I like that it was a fictional terrorist plot because I feel like this could have been easily done as like a 9/11 movie, and like we all kind of know how things ended. So because it was fictional, like I mean, I'm assuming it was fictional. Never heard of this terrorist attack that happened, but it was like intriguing because it like you don't know how it's going to end, and you don't know what's going to happen and who the bad guy is, who the good guys are, what all the intrigue is. Like I do think there's a thriller aspect to it, like you said, because there's so much hype in the beginning of this of like what happened on flight 217. Is it 217?
Yeah, I think so.
And
It wasn't.
It could be 267.
Kev, what is it?
I thought it was 1, 2,
You keep
2,
going,
1,
Joey. I'll Google it.
Yeah,
or 1,
Well,
2.
I think it was flight
Who
2.
cares?
Maybe it was one something. I don't know. But because it was fictional, there's no real like, oh, I remember living through that. I know what happened. I remember these bad guys. Like that is a good aspect of like fictionalized terrorism. In movies. In movies.
That is a good aspect of fictionalized terrorism. We need that on a T-shirt on the
Yikes,
new
Joey.
Flix.
Yeah. Not actual, but yes.
We do not support terrorism, okay?
No.
Um,
It's flight 127.
127, okay. So I thought it was interesting. However, I do have a few gripes with the story. with the plot. That at first I was like, they're minuscule, they're minor, and now I'm like looking back at my notes and I'm like, I don't know, it kind of like changes it out, like watching the movie now 24 hours later, and like how I feel. So I think I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna hold off until I hear what you guys say and see if you persuade me one way or the other.
Get him, Kevin.
This was a very, as the kids are saying, mid movie. I don't know. I like Chris Pine, Tandiwe.
Tandiwe.
That's how you say it, Newton. I like her. I liked her in Westworld. But like nothing really stood out to me about this movie. The twist, which we won't get into, but like obviously you go into these spy movies knowing like there's gonna be a twist somewhere, and it was a little predictable. It was slow. The pacing wasn't that great.
I think I want to cut you off real quick on the pacing, because I agree that yeah, I don't care. It's first reactions. It's
Screw you and your first reactions.
The pacing was, yes, I agree, a little bit slow, but because it's told over almost like 3 different timelines of history, I do think they do a good job of like cutting and going back before it loses you. You know what I mean? Like usually there's movies where it's like they spend so much time in the past that you get invested, and then they cut and then they bring you back to the present. And you're like, oh shit, like where am I? This did a good job of moving back and forth between them without it being too fast and also without it being too slow. Good pacing.
No, but I think the argument to that is like it just wasn't like it was really difficult to follow. And like I know we're stupid, but like a lot of times it was just like I don't know, it was almost too much like where they were cutting, and you had to really focus on what time period or what came first. Like some of it wasn't very clear what was happening first, like when they first cut to him and Jonathan Pierce or Price, whatever his name is, the
Yes.
Pope. Like they don't really tell you which one happened first until like 4 scenes later. So you don't know whether he already talked to her or whether he already talked to Jonathan Price. There was like weird stuff like that throughout. And that other point I was going to make on my first reactions is obviously this is nonlinear storytelling. And I don't think it was a good use of nonlinear storytelling. Like, it wasn't an interesting. Like, I feel like if you're gonna pull that card of like doing something like that type of storytelling, which one is really hard in general, I'm sure, and 2 like is really like an interesting way to tell the story. You have to do it in an interesting way, like a la Memento or Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind or 100 or 500 Days of Summer, like something like that, where they use that creatively. This was just like, we're going to tell this story from 3 different times, and it's not going to be super clear, and then we're going to wrap it all up at the end with a twist. Like, it was very generic spy movie, and like I wasn't excited at all during it. Like, I wasn't like, oh,
yeah.
like what's going to happen?
Before you
Before
go
my
to James,
first
I just want to,
reactions. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I want to like. They do a good job of telling you what timeline everyone is. They say, okay, in Vienna, it's 2012. In California, it's 2020.
That's the only
but
time
then when
card
they
you
say
get.
London, it's like they give you 3 very specific destinations, like unique looks and feel to each place that you know at the time. Like you don't need to question. Like they know that they talk to the Pope. What's Jonathan Price, right? Before, is it him?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 weeks before he goes to California. So once you just know.
Yeah, but you don't know that until like later in their conversation when the Pope is like,
No,
he's coming to talk to
they
you.
show it. It says 2 weeks earlier in the beginning. So once you figure out those,
Oh, maybe I missed
once you
that
figure out
timestamp.
those, like, put those places with those times, it is, I think, easy to track kind of like
Yeah. It definitely
where
seems
they
like,
are in time and space.
Yeah, but still, the overarching story like was super like they didn't take any time to explain the politics behind what's going on with the overarching plot, which was like a big frustration for me. Was like there was no I guess exposition, or like there was no explanation for like who this cell is,
do
or because they
explain
start talking about like, is there another cell? And you're like, what's the first cell? And like, give me a little background behind each character. Like
No,
they
no, no.
just
They
said
literally
these
did it.
names,
Dude,
and
they
then let
literally
you
did a
assume.
sequence where they're like, explain to me the team. And then they literally went person by person and explained the whole team. That literally
No, he's
happened.
talking about
No,
the
not
cells,
them.
the
The
terrorist
bad
cells.
guys.
The bad
I'm
guys
talking
aren't
about
that
the
important.
bad guys,
There's only
not
one bad guy
the
that's
the.
important.
Okay.
They are, but
Alright,
they are.
regardless,
That's the interesting
let's-
part. Is like how everything
think
is
we
working
I
talked
will agree
together.
with you
about
that
this.
there's some plot holes there, but let James finish his first
Let's
reactions
do
before
first
we
reactions,
spoil.
and then we got it. We'll get into.
Oh, Kevin's making some good points.
No,
Let's
no, no,
move
no.
on to
Before
someone
I
else.
absolutely
Fuck
give
you
a
guys.
smackdown. We're gonna finish first reactions. All right. So first reactions. Overall, I thought it was really good. I think the actual depth of the plot was very entertaining. They did a good job of kind of stringing you along. I didn't think. I don't want to really talk about the twist. I will say there's elements of the twist that I thought were predictable, but there's elements that I didn't think were predictable. And I thought it felt very genuine and something that like I hadn't seen recently in movies. So I think it's a very good watch, especially for the time. It's like a little more than an hour and a half. It gets the story done very well. I agree with Joey. It's not just like, that's not saying not just a 9/11 film, but they gave you a fake historical event, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen. There were other complicated factors, like, international struggles and like some espionage struggles, and like that was interesting to see. Overall, I think they did a good job. They told an interesting story, and they did an interesting job of framing it in kind of a, love story, and they gave that element to it too, without kind of like, beating a dead horse, because it is more like a spy movie than a love story, but it's an interesting way to kind of build this narrative out, I guess. So I thought that felt very new to me. So overall, I liked it. But I think there's some differing opinions here. So I think we're gonna.
I was just gonna say this is gonna turn into like a classic episode of Flicks Fellas, where James is on one side, I'm on the other. Neither of us are changing our minds, but goes right in the middle.
That is true.
Classic episode.
I think Joey's with me, Kevin.
No.
Yeah, that's a classic dilemma on the show.
Yeah,
I think Joey's leaning more towards you, but I think you're both fucking
Just don't look up all
out
over
of your
again.
mind.
Just don't look.
I think we watched different
no,
movies.
this is not nearly
Yeah.
as bad as Don't
This
Look
is
Up.
not as bad as Don't Look Up, though, because I still think you guys are the dumbest people on the face of the
That's
earth
so
for
rude.
enjoying that movie. But
Okay,
I'm just saying.
I'll start us off. I'm pressing play on this.
Boom, Kevin.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, so confidently.
Wow,
No,
what a
scroll.
weenie. I honestly think Kevin would have pressed play if we weren't so avidly.
No, I swear to God, this movie barely breaks into a 6 out of 10 for me. Like, I'm not
I think-
I'll
wasting
tell
my
you-
time on this movie. There are way better
But-
spy movies to watch than this.
I
Way
think-
more
I think
entertaining.
we might be able to sway you, Kevin, with
I
a
will
little
say
more
this.
discussion.
No, there's
With a
literally no
little
sway.
more
I'm the most stubborn man
discussion.
in the world.
I'll say this, Kev. There are better spy movies, but this isn't a movie that you would go like to the. I wouldn't go to the movies to see this. This is the perfect spy movies for a streaming service at home watch. Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Wait,
I
hold
said
on.
it, Kevin.
Time
It's
out.
fact.
No, it's not.
Kevin.
No,
James?
wait. You
Can I
can't
please
say
just
that
give my quick
because
player
you're
keep scrolling?
No, you're fucking up the viewers. You're fucking up the viewers because if you say that, they think it's something that you can just turn on and put
You
on in the
definitely
background.
can't do that.
and
No, no,
you
no.
can just like
Definitely
I
let
didn't
it
say
play.
that.
But you can't. You have to
definitely
pay
can't.
attention to it, and it's
Yeah,
not
but
very
you should pay
entertaining.
attention to movies when you watch them.
Guys, we're cutting
Kevin.
down on time on first reactions here.
James, yeah.
Talk about it later. All right, I'm clicking play, obviously. This is a good movie. Kevin's wrong. But we'll talk about it at length in a minute. We appreciate you. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Please give us a like if you're listening to us on Spotify. 5-star review. Really appreciate it. We'll see you in a sec.
Kev, you're wrong.
Oh, my God. Welcome back, fellas!
God.
So Joey says Kevin's wrong right off the bat. I kind of agree.
Mm-hmm.
I'll listen. I'm totally cool with taking a backseat to the Kevin Joey off if this is gonna be.
I want to defend my stance real quick about that last comment I made that got Kev heated for a second
All
because
riled up.
yes, this isn't a movie where you can just put on the background and not pay attention, but I don't think any spy movie is that. There are certain like at-home movie watches that are like comedies or like stupid drama, maybe not stupid dramas, but just like light-hearted movies that you could put on the background. And like that's I feel like what we've watched a lot of that we're like, oh yeah, I could just put on the background, press play type of thing, whatever. This is a good movie for a spy movie designed to watch at home. That was what I was trying to say. It's not designed to go to theaters where there's going to be a lot of action scenes and sound effects and all that stuff. It's designed to
you're right.
watch at home, and it's a spy movie, so naturally
Or to not
you're
be
going to have
watched
to
at
pay
all.
attention more so than a comedy. No, Kevin. Now because you're so adamant, that makes me more
Look,
adamant.
it just wasn't that great a movie. I'm not saying it was the worst movie I've ever seen in the world. Like, but I'm not gonna say play because it was long. Like even though it
wasn't
was
long.
short, it felt
Yeah,
long.
It was very short.
No,
Yeah.
I know it wasn't long, but the pacing it felt very long, and the story wasn't that it wasn't
I
that
think it was.
interesting because.
think-
No, they don't. Because the only interesting part, I'm telling you,
No, fuck
it's
you,
not.
James.
Yeah, fuck your opinion. But no, I just felt like the interesting part was the hijacking. I'd be more interested in a hijacking where they're trying to save them, but I understand that this story is more about
Yeah.
the mole.
Look, I agree it's not the
I
most
don't know.
like
This
plot, like the plot twist wasn't super crazy. It was not, I wouldn't say predictable, but it was not like shocking because
I think the first twist was a little like I was shocked by twist 1. Twist 2 I expected.
twist 1 is wait. You can't expect twist 2 without
twist
expecting
1
twist
no,
1.
Ti-
wait,
so I
okay,
didn't,
hold on.
like-
Before we talk too many vagaries, we're in the spoiler
Alright.
section.
Yeah. Wait
Yeah.
for that
Okay.
conversation because James sounds really stupid right now.
I always sound kind of stupid.
But the twists play off
Yeah,
of
yeah,
each
well, I
other,
mean,
so you.
I'll explain it
Anyway,
later.
we'll talk
Yeah,
about it
yeah,
later.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
talk
All
about
right,
it
so
later.
I guess the first thing we should talk about is the pacing, which I think, Kevin, I agree is the weakest part of the movie. I think it's like it definitely doesn't feel like an hour and a half movie. It feels more like a 2-hour movie. I think that they did some unnecessary jumping around. I don't really think they needed to show whatever his name is, Price, Jonathan Price's character again. It didn't really lead to anything, you know? Like, they kept jumping back to him, but it never meant anything.
No,
in the
it
end,
did because it's meant to mislead the viewers
to
that
throw you off.
him and Celia?
Celia, yeah.
are in cahoots of something together.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of agree with the pacing, but I also like. I watched this with Amanda last night, and she made a good point that it felt like a play, because like a monologue play, where it's just kind of all talk. There's not a lot of action. It takes place in basically 2 locations: the restaurant and then like the Vienna office. So
Yeah.
it feels very much like theatrical in that sense. That's not like
Felt like a
It's
book.
based off of a
'cause I
book.
think it's
It
based
is.
off
Is it based off a book? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
my week. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It felt like I was watching, like they just took the book and like adapted it. So
No, I was just going to say that I
sorry.
think that's also hurts the pacing aspect, is because it's not a lot of action. It's more dialogue heavy.
Yeah, I don't think I obviously have not read the book. It didn't feel like a good book adaptation. Like, I literally felt like this was like someone reading an audiobook to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just, if this was in text form, it would probably be a better
Yeah.
book than it was
Yeah,
a
it's because they kept flashing back.
You know
and
what I'm
it was
saying?
Basically, like the whole story was told through the lens of exposition of the 2 characters. Really, you know.
Well, it was also nice that it takes place in 2020. There's no COVID reference. I think they shot this during COVID too, because in the credits they had 4 people dedicated to COVID testing and COVID protocols.
Yeah.
So I think that's also why, like, I'm sure the book probably is more action-packed or dramatic, but they probably were filming this during COVID, where they probably had to keep the set smaller, the cast smaller. That's just my guess. I don't have any proof to that, but I would imagine that in the book there probably was more action, and they probably were trying to limit that
Yeah,
because
they had probably to limit locations too, just because of like.
where they could
Yeah.
film. Hmm Okay, so I think I agreed with James enough on why I like this movie. Let's talk about some gripes, and let me agree with Kevin for a little bit.
Can I?
Well, look, here's one thing, and it kind of plays on what you guys were saying with Jonathan Price's Pierce. Is it Price or Pierce? I don't know. I forget.
I was wrong.
If they didn't have anything to do with it, it felt like a cheap fake out.
It was a dumb
to
red
the
herring.
audience because why would he have called her? Why would he have called her after that meeting?
Because
warn
they
her.
knew what was
If
happening.
they
knew that the Vic.
But they never stated that Jonathan was contacted by this other dude.
No, but I think
No.
that's
And
what I'm
that
saying. They
kinda
tried
goes
to
into
make you
the
think
twist.
that they were the bad guys, but Vic, I think, clearly
Right,
gave
but
them
what
a
I'm
heads
saying
up
is
that
there
he was
was-
like, "Look, I sent him on this mission."
Oh, right, I
Vic was
forgot
involved,
Vic
so
was
he
involved.
gave
Never
them the
mind,
warning,
sorry.
and I think
I
Vic was
forgot,
just
yeah.
where Jonathan Price's character was saying like, "Hey, he just interrogated me. It got intense.
he's coming to you.
Fair
Yeah.
warning. He's coming to you. I know you guys have a history, like, type of thing." So I think that, and they only showed you probably a snippet of the conversation
Why wouldn't have Vic just killed him?
What?
because they said that they had the confirmation from Elias that he was the name. So, spoiler alert now, Chris Pine's character was the mole. Now, there's another twist behind that, but he was the mole, and Elias gave the CIA the name. However, Celia's character says that we had the name, I was just the confirmation to confirm that you were the mole. And
From
because
like
he
a
confesses to
trusted
her.
source. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
pretty much.
Yeah. Because they literally had plants all over the restaurant, like it was a bugged restaurant.
The
you
whole
know?
yeah,
And
which
he
also was
was
kind of predictable because
Yeah, 100%.
they like
the
highlighted a
sec-
lot of weird people.
Yeah, they zoom in on certain people. I was confused by
Go ahead, sorry.
what was the assassin character, like Chris Pine's contact in the restaurant. That confused me.
That
See,
was
that's
stupid.
stupid too. Is like it was his like hitman, but wouldn't it be like
It
a
would've been Vic's
CIA?
hitman.
Well, I guess they want to keep it
Yeah.
separate, right? Vic is overseeing this, so Vic probably knows the hitman that he would use for this job because he asked Chris Pine to get a hitman to kill her. So wouldn't Vic have talked to the dude and been like, "Don't kill her"? But he doesn't in the end. But then I'm on my whole gripes with that ending scene. But I think I don't know. There's
like a
stupid
little
shit like
too
that
much.
annoys
There's a
me.
little
And
too much.
again, the
Yeah.
story was not that interesting.
I think it was
So,
the difference. The key difference
warrant-
between I think me and you, Kevin, and maybe Joey and you, but like I did find the story very interesting. So it's like I don't think that they stuck the landing. I think there was elements of the landing that I thought were really good, and elements that I was like, I don't really. That's kind of weird, but whatever. But I overall thought that like the plot of the movie was interesting, especially like the turmoil with like the moral struggle and like position that Ilias puts Henry Pelham in. You know what I mean? Where he's like, listen, I have like your lover. You know what I mean? Do I think he like maybe could have been less like smoke and mirrors about it? Yes. But I thought like when he's like, oh, I have a contact. And then he goes to this like estate and he sits down and he's sitting across from Ilias and he's like, holy shit, like I need information. Please stop this attack. And he's like, actually, you're going to give me information or I'm going to kill your lover. You know what I mean? And it's like,
No, he knew Elias was behind it though. But
stupid.
well, he knew Ilias was behind
he
it, but I'm
did.
saying like he didn't expect
They-
to see him.
they
Like,
always
he didn't expect
knew.
to meet Ilias. He
Yeah.
meant like expected to get some kind of information on it.
look, I'll say this. I thought the story was good. I thought there was just some very unrealistic aspects to it. The sense that he's asking, 8 years later, he's asking Celia, who he hasn't talked to in 8 years, since she just randomly up and left the CIA one day and was never to be seen again by him, like after they were lovers, like and like moving in together and all this stuff. That was the first unrealistic. I was like, how do you just like straight up? I guess you're a spy, you can disappear, but like she didn't really disappear. She just left.
It was like she said it was because of the trauma of the event, like of Flight 127.
Yes.
Like that's why.
Obviously, we know that she left for different reasons, but like, I don't know. It just seems that it's like that would have come up in like your exit interview. Oh well, yeah, my lover
Yeah,
who
I'm sure.
I don't want to be anywhere near.
Well, and if she was so concerned about what happened, why wouldn't
Exactly.
she tell someone? I get,
Yeah.
because I love
And then
you.
she,
Yeah,
well,
it was
then
weird.
no, then
Bullshit.
she was
Shut
like,
the
I
fuck
wasn't
up.
sure if that was
I don't know.
Elias's number or not, and I was like, why would?
So why wouldn't you pursue it? You're in the
Yeah,
fucking
that's
CIA.
that was my
That's
biggest
your
gripe is
job.
that she
It's
kind
so
of just
stupid.
Yeah,
the way
well,
she handled everything just didn't
She
feel
didn't want to
real.
pursue it because she didn't want to. She knew that Chris Pine's character was the mole, and she's like, I don't want to burn him because I love him too. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole point.
But then
No,
she does.
Well, she ends up
After it's
doing it
found out.
because
Because
what
Vic
happens?
they catch
Oh,
Elias.
is Vic orchestrates
Because
it?
she's guilty.
They catch Elias and Vic orchestrates a plan for him to be alone with her so that she
Yeah,
can do it.
that
But
makes sense.
it's just the whole kind of like
I think that there's a
nobody
little like
talks to each
logic
other.
bendy. There's logic bendiness that's happening here, but I still think it's good.
Well, it didn't even need to get to this point. Vic could have brought when he
Yeah, but
brought
it's not a
this
good
up
story,
to
Kevin. If he just like yeah.
Celia. Hold on, but that's what I'm saying. But no. You cannot give a movie that like you can't always be like, oh, then it's not a good story if they're cutting corners on the story, especially if you're gonna base it in something as real as like the CIA or like this espionage stuff. Like if you're gonna try and play it serious like this and not be like a Mission Impossible, right, or something where you suspend your disbelief, you can't just be like, oh well, like whatever, like it's the CIA, but they're the dumbest people on the face of the earth. Like
Yeah.
that makes no sense. They're all so stupid. Then like why wouldn't Vic like? You got to give some reason why Vic like
Have
had
Celia
to
do
set
it or
him up
something. Yeah.
and have Celia set it up when and it all falls apart when Celia could have just said to him, "Oh, that night I
Yeah.
saw the Iran number in
Yeah.
his
Done.
phone."
Yeah.
Story over. Put him in jail. They don't want to put him in jail
prosecute it,
because
yeah.
we can't have the optics of it. Okay, so kill him.
You have a
Like,
hitman
whatever,
ready
if
to
you
kill
wanna
Celia.
play it like that,
Yeah.
even though that's dumb.
Yeah.
Just kill him. Yeah. Just poison
Yeah.
him. Poison him there. He literally gave him a drink. I'm pretty sure. In that first scene.
That's what he
Could've
did.
poisoned him.
That's what he did.
Not in the first scene. He waits
No,
till like
in the first scene. In the first
seven
scene when
glasses
they're
later
sitting
that
together.
Yeah.
but yeah, so that was the biggest gripe.
I don't know. That's where my frustration comes in. Is like that it's so like lazy how this is all set up, and it's not very exciting because there's not any very exciting sequences in the movie.
It's supposed to be
Like,
suspense.
it's
It's not
just-
supposed to be
there's
action.
nothing
Okay,
to
hold
it.
on. So
But the
So let's-
suspense is not there because you're so because it's either Celia and Jonathan Pryce did it or Chris Pine did it. Like those are the only two options, and like it's pretty obvious that if it's gonna be a twist, it's gonna be Chris Pine
or Vic was my other
and
thought.
If not, right. So it's just there's
Yeah.
no suspense because
So
it's
let
gonna
me
be
ask
one
you,
of
let's
the
just kind of switch topic a little bit because the night of the event in 2012, he sees Ilias and Celia sees that he called. There was so many opportunities for Chris Pine's character. What's his name? Henry Pelham.
Henry Pelham. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He could have one given false information to Ilias. He never
Yeah.
there was not enough time for him to validate any information he was giving. Or two, if he really cared about those people on the plane and protecting his love interest, he could have went back to that control room and said, "Hey, I just saw Ilias. They're extorting me.
Yeah,
They were going to
this is
kill
where
her.
Ilias is.
I had to
He's
let
at
them.
this.
I had
He's
to
at
let them
this
know
location.
XYZ
Yeah.
information."
Because what's her name? She leaves like 10 minutes later. Like it's not like
Yeah.
they hold her there.
No,
you know?
she just
doesn't
leaves.
know she's like at death's door. You know.
Yeah. So, do you think he could have? And if he could have, do you think he should have told people what he knew? That he was
I think he
basically
should have
a
like
mole?
immediately implicated himself. You know, I mean, like in real world, he should have
Yeah.
immediately implicated himself, been like, "Hey, I was extorted for information because this person was whatever." He would have been prosecuted, and like obviously, there's a lot of repercussions because people died. But like, you
So
know,
you're saying
maybe
he could have done it theoretically, like he could have, but
He might have
I-
gone to
oh, no,
jail,
I'm not saying
but
he
he
should've-
could have. He.
I mean,
it
I don't.
would've-
You're saying like give up Ahmed in the plane, or do you mean like?
no, I'm saying like give himself up that he gave away that information
Oh, he
because
should
that is a
absolutely give
huge
himself up. Yeah, he absolutely. give himself up.
ethically that's the right thing. But my point is, in that situation, knowing you're in the CIA, you just gave up valuable intel to a guy who has 100 people hostage, do you protect yourself and say,
Well, this is the
Nope.
situation. No. Honestly, Joey, like I thought about this too, and I was like, the reason that he didn't tell the CIA is not because he loves Celia. It's because he doesn't want to go to jail. Because him telling the CIA doesn't affect Celia at all. She
No.
didn't give up any information. She was held hostage without herself knowing. You know what I mean? Like she wouldn't have been like subject to any criminal charges. It just would have been him. There was
Right.
no like the reason
Right.
he didn't tell them isn't because he loves her. The reason he didn't tell them is because he's selfish and doesn't want to go to jail. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And you know, I have some problems with that twist as well, where it's like, oh, I did this because I love you, for a couple reasons. One, I don't think they were very believable. I don't think they had a ton of chemistry as a couple. So that hurts that. Two, I think the much more interesting twist, which they kind of set up, is that Chris Pine has immense guilt for what happened to Ilios's family and what his government did to Ilios's family, that he did intentionally give that information away and that this was all a ruse. So I think that's a more interesting and more exciting twist because they didn't have that much chemistry, so it wasn't very believable. They like just have some weird sex scene that kind of plays that out, and it was a weird sex scene. We have seen Chris Evans's butt twice, or Chris Pine's butt twice on this podcast, and his dong once.
Oh, we saw his dong in the Irish movie. In the what was it called?
He almost
Chris
tongue
Pine
dong in this
review
one.
we've
I was
watched,
like, damn, we're about to
he's
see
been naked
two.
at some point.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, they weren't that believable, so that twist just fell flat.
You
for
see
me
his
as
ass like 6 times. I swear to
and-
God. Like I feel like he was naked and
and they show
full
like
ass
full
for
ass.
long.
they show
Yeah.
full thrusts. Like, he's just like,
Kevin, stop.
I was like, Julia's sitting on the couch next to me, and I'm just like, we might have to cut this. So,
You shouldn't say it. If you immediately
I
go,
know.
we're gonna have to cut this. You shouldn't say
we might
it.
have to cut this. I was like, until I would like to be doing that.
Let's do that.
Oh God, that's so good. All right, that's so funny.
I have one other-
Dude, you see his ass for like 2 minutes. I swear, 2 minutes of content. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I keep talking about Chris Pine's ass.
Did I
Pine's
miss
ass
something like so
podcast.
blatantly obvious, or did they just like punch this nail in the head so many times and just not explain it? What is everyone's beef with Sally?
Who's Sally?
Sally is
Sally.
Jonathan Pryce's wife, who every time they
apparently
mention
she's the
her,
worst.
Oh, that fucking bitch.
Dead ass, dude. They rip her apart. They're like, he's getting some kind of like verbal abuse from his wife, and then they go, "That's an understatement." Literally every time they talk about a guy's wife, like she never
they're
has a
literally
line
saying, like,
in the movie.
why are you still with her?
Even in the bar 8 years later, he's like, "How's that bitch Sally?"
Dude, she doesn't have a line in the movie. The only thing we know is she fucking sucks.
What's the director's wife's name?
That would be
Probably.
so
Jonathan
funny.
Pierce's name.
Or the writer, the
Oh,
novelist,
that's so funny.
writer's name.
I don't know.
Wife's
That's
name.
fucking so.
But I was just like,
That's-
when are they going to explain to us
That's a good
what
point,
Sally
Joe.
did?
What is this plot device that you're giving me here? Who hurt
Sally
you? Who
made him
named
move
Sally
to
hurt
London.
you?
Sally
Yeah.
made him go home in the middle of the terrorist attack. Sally
I
is
guarantee you
manipulative.
there's
Sally's
somebody-
passive aggressive. But
Can we also
That
talk about
fucking
how
bitch.
that guy Owen just killed himself and they never brought that back up? They're just like, man, Owen killed himself, and they were like, and they just moved on.
they did
were
bring it up
like-
one more time though. But I was a
Wouldn't
little
it
annoyed
be interesting? Like, because the whole thing is, right? So we're getting in closer to the end of the movie here. I'm sorry, Joey, I didn't mean to cut you off. Listen,
Finish
I'm
your
getting
thought.
back. I'm getting back at you, Joey.
How did the gun land so perfectly on the
I don't know.
coffee table?
Someone tell. It's because he got no. So this is my thought, right? So the whole point at the end of the movie is like You're
He put it down
getting
after.
like you're getting suicided. Like that's the whole thing is like he's getting killed. They're gonna make it look like a suicide. I'm like, wouldn't you be suspect of that happening to the other guy?
But he didn't. He didn't get
I know
suicided.
he just committed suicide.
He didn't get.
But I'm saying is like that
Oh,
other
oh.
guy is getting suicided. So wouldn't it make sense that he would be suspect of the one guy that they think committed suicide? You know what I mean? Like especially when he's like they're like. Because Vic at the beginning of the movie is like talking to Chris Pine's character and he's like, "Hey, I need you to do what needs to be done, aka killing this other person and potentially making it look like natural causes or something else." And you're like, and then wouldn't Chris Pine's character go, that's real interesting because somebody, one of our teammates died of other causes. You know what I mean? Recently.
No, but that wasn't like. Oh, I get what you're saying. Like he's not
You know what I mean?
suspecting.
That was
but
guilt.
He's not
he's saying
suspicious
he's like,
of Owen at all.
did
Like,
Owen really do it, or did
He was.
No,
was
no, but
he?
He was.
There's a
There's a
throwaway line.
throwaway line about how he couldn't have which was a dumb reason as well. That because his dad was like
no.
the
That's
head
why they
of
couldn't blame him.
Some
They couldn't blame him because his uncle was on like some chair
Oh.
committee
Some
in
board.
Congress.
Yeah.
But
But like, I just feel like
Oh,
that would be
yeah.
a huge, like, especially if like you're in the business and that's something your boss literally asked you to do. Like, wouldn't you be suspect? Because like,
you would think like, oh, maybe he didn't kill himself. Maybe
yes,
maybe
like,
one
maybe
of our guys
somebody
did.
killed him and they made it look like that.
I think that's
you
just
know?
like a casualty of the job. When you're in the CIA, you got to know.
But is it just a throw? I'm sorry, I butt my mic. I feel like it's just a throwaway. Like it's like, hey, like here's this cool character with all this like interesting background knowledge, and also he's dead now, and there's like no question.
Yeah.
You know.
What
No, he
I'll
wasn't
say
that
this too.
interesting.
What kind of like confused me why they had so many characters. There were more characters in this that ever really talk about like the other girl who grew up in the war-torn city,
Yeah.
but like this is the CIA operating in Vienna. The CIA here has they're not making any decisions based on how to handle the situation. They're not negotiating with the terrorists. They're not like their literally sole job is to gather information and help the Austrian government like figure out how to navigate it. They hold back so much information from the Austrian
Yeah.
security
They do a really shitty job.
that I'm like,
They do
we're
a
literally
really
just watching people watch a terrorist attack unfold. You know what I mean? Like, they're not really like, they don't have the authority or power to stop this, other than like
Well, they-
going to kill Ilias or something like that. But like,
Well, they were trying to do the prison thing, but they're like, hey, are they like the prisoner release? Because that was the whole point, right?
but that was
Like,
the Austrian and the government,
That's not the CIA.
Austrian and
Yeah.
German government managing that.
German,
The
yeah.
CIA literally was just like watching this unfold and just trying to get information. That's all we watched was like the CIA trying to do their job.
and not
Yes.
effectively.
So that was a big, like, not gripe, but like a realization at the end. I was like, huh, like it would have been more impactful if somebody on this team had like made a big call that like impacted
Had
everything.
done
They're like,
anything.
no, we're not going to release the prisoners, or no, we're not going to, or we are going to negotiate with them or something. Like none of them had that authority.
Joey, that's so true. I literally haven't thought about that till right now. That like literally during this entire event, it's like 5 people scattering, coming back and gone, we got nothing. We got
Yeah.
nothing.
So it's like
We
you
got
didn't even need to have Owen, the guy who killed himself. You didn't need to have the Muslim girl who is like their
Layla, Owen.
They sent everybody else out to find something, and then one guy came back and he was like, "I found the dude we were looking for, but he extorted me, and I gave him all our."
He's like, wait a minute. I needed to get information from him.
Oh, I gave them all the information. Uh-oh.
The other thing I didn't like is that they don't really bring Vic back into it, because like honestly, when he said that they had Ilias, he died before he could give in. The first question Chris Pine asked was, "Did he say a name?" So my first thought was, okay, that's suspect. That he's like not suspect, like that's probably his job, but also just like from a narrative point, like I would think like, okay, you want to know if he gave it who. But 2, I thought Vic could have been in on it in some extent. And they don't really like play into that card. They just kind of like send him on his job and then he fiddles off in the background.
Nice. Should we talk about El Twisty?
Did you guys notice the bartender say something to her in the grocery store the
Yes.
first time? We see
Yeah.
him because I did. I was like, he. Just
I noticed
said
him like
something.
looking at her.
And then they showed him again, and I was like, wasn't that the guy who said something to her?
I noticed him look at her. I couldn't tell if he like moved his lips or not, so I couldn't see if he said something. But I was like, that's a fucking creepy guy, just like getting really close.
You
and
also
she's
like
not,
tater
like-
tots?
Yeah, like,
That's where it's dumb too. Is it's like so obvious, like he got
Yeah.
poisoned. Like when the dude came over, he's like, "Oh, she went home sick. I'm your waiter now." When they could have poisoned him from the bar, they didn't need to
No.
switch waiters to poison him. They just poisoned.
Well,
him
also,
from
what
the
happened to
bar.
her? She got flown out here to do this job. To do the one thing is to like deliver the food, and then like maybe she just touched a glass by accident and got some of the poison because she
I
got to leave.
think that was what they were trying to say. I think that she spilled the
That
glass
is what
fell and
happened.
she touched it.
Because he says, "Don't touch her glass.
Yeah.
Don't touch."
So
his
she touched the
glass."
glass, and I think she got poisoned. So they were trying to like save her before it happened.
That makes sense. I made a joke. It's exactly what happened. I made it.
If they couldn't save her, she's the worst CIA
He
operative
just like
of all time.
passes out on the ground. Is she okay? Yeah.
That's
Don't worry
classic.
about
See,
that.
This movie's fucking dumb as shit.
How's the wine?
My last gripe before, my last comment, I'll say, anyone else think it was like weirdly specific how they were getting in detail 8 years later? I'm like, I get it, like this was a traumatic day
God,
and like
yeah.
it's your job, but like there were so many like very, very specific details that I was like, you can't remember that after 8 years. She was like, I went into his office at 9:15 and I saw the call log at 9:30. I'm like,
Yeah, like
what
no
do you- like
shot.
8 years later, you just be like, it was probably around 9
Yeah.
o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock. I don't know. It's been 8 years. Like,
8 years ago, I was 18. I couldn't tell you one full day of my life when I was 18
No
if
way.
I tried.
Like-
Yeah, like actually no way.
Like,
yeah, like
in
even
detail.
like we've lived through multiple terrorist attacks now, as sad as that is. Like, I couldn't tell you. You remember the moments vaguely. Like, I remember when like Obama came out and made the announcements about getting Bin Laden. Could not tell you what time it was. All I know is May 1st. I was about to shut the TV off, and I see this thing. Like, no details. It was a massive life event, but like, couldn't tell you the specifics.
Yeah.
And these
It's
people are
also
just
like-
reciting minute
Yep.
by minute, 8 years later,
Wouldn't it
of what
be-
happened.
Yeah, it'd be more suspect if it was like, because it seems like they prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
know everything.
Well, and that's the other thing is that I don't know if you guys have been following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case at
A
all.
little bit.
So I watched
Yeah.
a little bit more of the trial today, and they were interviewing, I think like some hotel manager that they frequented, and the one lawyer kept asking. They were like, on December 15th, 2015, do you remember why Johnny Depp said he couldn't come on this trip anymore? And she was like, no, like I don't recall. Like, no, like it's
no.
been 8 years.
Absolutely
Like, why would I remember
Yeah,
why
yeah.
one person that I deal with hundreds every day like said he couldn't? I don't know. It's just like
Yeah.
it was like very contracts of like that's
Yeah,
a realistic
contrast.
yeah,
Yeah.
contrast, that's the word. Realistic like
Contracts.
memory verse. Shut up, guys.
contrast.
Stop making fun
Listen,
of
you
me.
guys made fun of me at the beginning of the episode.
Um,
I'm trying to
That's
get
fair.
clout points back.
Chris Pine was infinitely
Chris
funnier
Pine.
than that. Speaking of the beginning of the episode, should
Yeah.
we double down?
Yes.
Unless anyone else has anything else to say.
Let's play the
player
game
game.
first, right? Or no, do we double? I always forget. I don't know why.
It's game first.
Game first. All right.
Game first.
So, according to the Tama, what do you guys think the tomatometer was? Joey first.
Joe, you can go first.
I agree. I don't think the critics are going to love this one. I think it's going to be 67.
67 from Joey. Kevin?
I was gonna go 63 for the
The tomato meter, the tomatometer, is a 62.
Oh, I was going to say 62 or 67. And I said 67. Fuck, I should have said 62.
Kevin got that one, bro.
Oh.
All right. You can redeem yourself here, Joey. Audience score.
I think the audience are going to like this a little bit better than the... I'm going to say 67 again.
It's double 67 on Joey, Kevin.
I'm going lower. I'm going 51.
The audience score was 40.
What?
I told you this movie.
No.
I told you this movie.
The majority of users agree with me.
All right. Let's get on to our double downs. I think I heard what I needed to hear.
I win again.
I hate
won
I
twice.
hate it. I don't like it. Kevin gets smug.
I
Kevin,
won 3 times. I won
Kevin-
3 times tonight. I got both right, and I'm right in my opinion.
Kevin is good smoke.
You're validated in your opinion.
Is so
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, what's your double down? I
Yes.
don't think I need to.
Oh, I thought you said yes.
I'm doubling
Alright.
down. No, yes,
All right,
I'm
keep
doubling
scrolling,
down.
Kevin. Joey.
I'm gonna double down and say press play,
play.
because
I-
I do think there's an entertainment aspect to
Yeah.
this.
I will say, I'm also going to double down. I'm going to press play. But, Kevin, you did make some very compelling arguments. I don't think this is as easy of a click play as I originally did. Do I think it's still worth a watch?
Thank you, James.
Yeah, I do understand your points, Kevin. But I do think the entertainment value is there for this, like the type of movie that it is. It's definitely slower. It's definitely more of like you have to. It's not a casual watch. Like you kind of have to sit down and be like plugged in because there's a lot of information that kind of goes quick, and they don't really repeat stuff. So
But that's what I liked about this, because I feel like a lot of our last few picks have been like movies that you don't really need to pay attention to, or you can just put in the
Boss Level.
background.
Like
Yeah, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I want to watch a movie that like I want to pay attention, that like
Yeah, that's
actually
true.
I don't have the interest to pick up my phone, and that's what this movie was for me, because
Yeah.
I was intrigued.
No, it was refreshing.
I think the last one for me was Munich, Edge of War. I think that was the last time I was actually
I like that movie a lot.
enthralled.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't as good as that movie,
was
but
a
this is a good movie. I think this is I think it's worth a watch. That's my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
But okay, boys. Anything else before we send it off? No. Well, thank you, listeners, for watching. We really appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with us, listening to us talk about movies that we like and also don't like. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe there. Check us out on Instagram at @flicks_fellas. That's the easiest way to connect with us. We're on Instagram all the time. In addition, again, I mentioned our Patreon. We now have merch. If you stayed to the end of the episode, you're a committed listener. The best way to commit is to get your own Flicks Fellas merch. So go check us out on Patreon. We really appreciate it, especially, we're trying to stay in the podcasting game. It's a really great hobby for us. We like to do it. We like to put out the content, but it helps us out, especially with the expenses of making a podcast. So any help would be greatly appreciated, but we're just happy that you stayed around. So we'll see you next time, and goodbye.
Anyone else knows of any other Chris
Bye.
Pine movies where he gets naked that are
Chris
What?
Spine.
Chris
Chris
Pine?
Spine.
That's what I said at the beginning of the episode.
I was like,
What
what?
James said in the beginning of the episode.
Well, now you just killed my joke, but bye.
Show us more Chris Dong movies.
Bye.
Bye.